in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now we'll move to the select board. We want to put this, we need to adopt the agenda first, we need to put this on, how does that work?
You have to ask for a motion to adopt it first to get the motion.
Before we adopt the agenda, right? Does everybody have this?
I had sent a request to add an agenda item about the town hall windows. Town office windows.
I did get that, I didn't process it, so, yeah.
So we need a motion to add this to the agenda.
I'll make a motion that we add a discussion about the town office windows to the agenda for tonight's meeting. Second.
Any discussion? Move that to, any particular place you'd like to see that set?
No preference, Mr. Chair.
I guess we'll call it, 7, 8. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Approval of the minutes, last month's minutes.
Make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. For the approval?
Aye.
Nice thing.
Town manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I did submit my report in advance. I'm happy to answer questions about it. I wanted to add a couple of items that have come up since that report was submitted. One is an announcement, a formal announcement that there is a vacancy on the Energy Committee. Claire Babjak-Schick has stepped down from her position on the Energy Committee. There's an interested person, but the committee seat is open. If you would like to serve on the Energy Committee, please submit your letter of interest and the appointments cover sheet to me by February 8th, ahead of the February 12th meeting. And a reminder to all that the town plan hearing will be next Monday, a week from this Monday, at 6 p.m. Comments can be submitted in advance regarding the town plan or at the meeting itself. And as far as the report itself, I have nothing in particular to highlight.
All right, thank you. Any questions for the town manager from the board? Cecil?
No,
Heather?
thank you.
No.
Nothing good.
All right, we'll move on to the rec director's report.
Thank you, Tracy. My report for January 22nd, 2024. Mother Nature has cooperated, and the ice rink behind the Brandon Inn is open. Rink master Wendy Field is dutifully keeping the ice cleared and has left the bin with some skates for use at the Performance Pavilion. Stay tuned for some night skating opportunities. The town hall floor has officially been replaced. Mountainside Flooring has done a tremendous job with the installation of the white maple, and it really brightens up the room. Dennis and the Friends of the Town Hall's work to secure the grant will now be augmented by another project to build and install a concessions counter that matches the beauty of the latest upgrade. Cleanup crew has been scheduled, and they're actually here today, and it appears that we'll be able to maintain the busy winter schedule, which starts this Friday with the first Brandon Idol. Brandon Idol's back, Friday, January 27th at 7 p.m. The 2024 crop of would-be idols will audition for the chance to participate in our monthly singing competition, with concerts scheduled for February 23rd, March 22nd, and April 19th. To prepare for the final on May 17th, this fourth year will prove to be the best yet. So not too late to sign up, Tracy. Kennedy Park concert scheduled for January 27th, or 28th. 26th is Idol, 27th is this Saturday. Former local teen rock band that is now a young adult staple in the Chittenden County music scene is coming home for a show in the place where they started, the Brandon Town Hall. Friday night the movies starts on Groundhog Day with a free will offering, a screening of a very appropriate to the date film being shown. We're not allowed to talk about the title as far as our license goes. So. The inaugural Kids Fest is scheduled for February 10th is an indoor kids event with all kinds of games, entertainment, and fun upstairs at the town hall. Also at the town hall, the weekly indoor disc golf putting league is back on Wednesday evenings at 6:30 on starting February 7th and running through the end of March. Free to play and a great way to work on your short game during the short days of winter. Neil Sellen's Spoon Carving Group will meet monthly starting on February 4th at 2:30. They will meet the first Sunday of the month in the basement of the town hall. Free to join, BYOWNT. That's wood and tools. And that is my report.
Thank you, Bill. Anything, any questions from the board?
How did the cleanup go today?
It went well, they took care of the chairs, they've put some new feet on the main chairs that we use for most of the events so that the new floor is protected somewhat. And they're doing, most of the work that they're doing is on the stage and behind the stage. There's some limited work being done on the walls around the room, so it's predominantly, this is cleanup work from the fact that when they lifted the old floor, they found sand underneath before the subfloor, which had to be removed.
Sand?
Sand.
Like lots of
Apparently,
sand?
like, it was being used as a sound deadener or an insulator or something, and they had to shovel it out, many wheelbarrows full.
It was a truckload. And it was used, that was their sound dampening, like that was the technology of the day, that they would use that to dampen sound in stages, on stages around their plant city.
Oh, just on the stage?
No, it was
No, the
throughout the whole
whole
floor.
Oh,
But
wow.
So they decided that because of weight considerations, they didn't want to put plywood on top of that and then the floor and leave the sand, so they removed the sand.
Could have had a party before we did that, though. I don't know.
I'm sure I would have loved that.
Come take sand home for your sand pile.
I don't think that's the Sandy my kids want.
Moving on to public comment and participation. This is for anything that's not on the agenda. We'll start with the board. Cecil?
I don't have any.
Heather?
None, thank you.
Brian?
No.
Ken?
No.
We'll open it up to the public. Cool.
I would like to ask the board if they might add an article to the warning and the ballot, and the article would read as follows. Shall the town of Brandon vote to assess an 8% penalty on late payment of taxes on 6/15 of each fiscal year, 30 days after the final tax installment due date of 5/15, thereby giving taxpayers a 30-day notice of penalty assessment. And the reason I ask for that again is I think our penalties are unnecessarily punitive for some people. I've had a number of elderly people who had they're on fixed incomes, they had expenses come up and couldn't pay their taxes, paid them a week later with an extra 9% tacked on, and I just feel like it's unnecessarily punitive. And I would like the voters, I mean, maybe the voters are happy with it, but I'd like to give them an opportunity to see if we can. A lot of towns, many towns do not penalize immediately. They push them out. Some towns stagger the penalty, like 4% in 15 days and another 4% in another 15 days. Some towns do not penalize the full 8%, but it's a mixed bag around the state. And I'd like to see us be a little kinder, if we can.
The warrant.
She's asking the board to place that on the warrant.
It'd be on the warning and then the ballot.
Do we need a
It'd be an article.
So that needs
At
to
the
be,
I
point in the
mean-
meeting,
Well,
when we get down to the warrant,
Okay.
right?
when we get down to the warrant, isn't that the place to do it?
you could do either place.
Let's do it now then.
Okay. I make a motion that we ask, that we warn and then put on the ballot that we will be asking the townspeople if we can give a grace period before charging a penalty for late taxes. Is that the?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? have it. Anything else on public comment or participation not on the, yep,
So at the previous meeting, when we discussed funding the police department 24/7 coverage, I don't know where we left it as, whether it's going to be on the ballot as a question, do you want 24/7 coverage, yes or no? And that would guide the select board to make an informed decision at their next budget meetings next year. Is that going to be on the ballot, or, I couldn't remember where that was left.
Understood that we were gonna do, what was gonna be on, it was gonna be a straw poll, but
Advisory question?
advisory question.
We hadn't
The way it
decided.
was
We haven't decided
non-binding.
anything, really, have we?
The board hadn't decided anything, and there was nothing placed on the warning.
You can, I mean, I could hand out paper at the ballots for people to fill out questions like that if the board wanted, and we could just kind of do a straw poll that way with just voters coming through the top.
Yeah, so nothing has,
It's it's non-binding, just trying to find out where people are at with that. That would help you guys make a decision if you know that majority support it.
Yeah, I think the reason that we had kind of punted on that question during the budget talks is that it would be a complicated question because it's more than just saying, do you want 24/7 coverage? It's saying, do you want 24/7 coverage with the understanding that these are the costs associated with it? We weren't quite sure what all those costs would be.
I would like to ask some sort of an advisory question because I think that the cost of asking this question is pretty low. And this is, having now been through a budget season, this is the time of year where I would like to start getting information for next budget season. Which means that asking the question now makes sense to me, and it seems like maybe the question be phrased something along the lines of, you know, would you be interested in 24/7 police coverage with the understanding that there would be an increased cost associated with it?
And you could put what the cost would have been if you had done it this year. In today's dollars, it would be
Right,
this.
estimated, and a big estimated, you know,
Estimated.
estimated at an
Today's
increase
dollars,
of.
so they,
Just based on the feedback that, and the conversation that we had during the budget meetings, it sounded like, I didn't really hear anybody saying, no, I wish we didn't have 24-hour coverage. I did hear people saying that they wish they
You
did.
didn't hear me then.
Well, I heard you,
Tim was
but I was
one person
thinking,
is doing it.
okay. So then I heard one person say they don't want 24-hour coverage, and I heard everybody else who spoke up, speaking up to say they were in favor. There probably were other people who sided with you and just didn't say something, but it was enough to make me think that asking the question is warranted.
I think there has to be a lot of conversation about what that question is, because we've never had 24/7 coverage in the sense of people being on duty 24 hours a day. So the concept of 24-hour coverage would need quite a bit of development.
I think we used to.
And the difference is the state police are doing less now. So not having 24-hour coverage now is different than when the state police were fully staffed,
We had
right?
24-hour grant.
Yeah.
covered.
Yes, so it's such a-
Neil?
I think that putting that question in a formal way is much better than putting it in as a straw poll. I think that we have some select people who are very opposed to any question about increasing police or even paying police a reasonable salary. I think that anybody who feels that way ought to reclude themselves from voting on police issues because it's not representative of the town. I think this needs to be made formal and represent what the town wants and not just what some of the select people are interested in doing.
Any, Eric?
Tracy, if you went forward with this suggestion, what time frame would you have to come up with what the wording would be for the question?
Just, Tim brought that up, so I just have to ask him on that.
Why would you?
Tonight, would it be, I'm just wondering, what is the
Oh, no,
timeline?
I thought you were asking of the,
No, I'm wondering what's our constraint for timeline?
If you're talking about a question that appears on the ballot and the warning tonight, if you're talking about a question that Sue might prepare on slips of paper and hand out, that can be later.
Okay.
anything that's gonna go on the ballot have to be done tonight.
What I might suggest, I'm sorry, is someone else talking?
No, we're just gonna.
What I might suggest is if it's going to be tonight, and you are going to consider what that wording might be, I think there's a lot of assumptions, perhaps, of what people perceive the coverage to be right now. And, you know, it may be a surprise to people to say, what, we don't already have 24-hour coverage? I thought we did. You might want to preface the question with maybe explaining, or at least declaring, what our current coverage is. In other words, question would be, do you want to increase our coverage from this to this?
It's been the select board's previous position that it was not advantageous to public safety to announce the actual amount of coverage that we do or do not have.
Okay, well, I can see that. But we're talking, not coverage, we're talking
On-duty coverage.
on-duty coverage.
We do have a 24-hour police department, which will provide 24-hour response, but a number of those hours are on-call hours, and the select board's position has always been that those hours should not be specified.
Fair enough, I guess.
I think that in the budget committee, when information was brought forward that was something that the community did want, it seemed like it wasn't, it wasn't official enough information for the select board to accept that. So I think that it's important that if that's what you need to have an actual vote of the entire town, for you to understand that the majority of the town does wish that kind of coverage, but I think it behooves you that you must do that, because the other information was not heeded. So there needs to be another way for you to feel secure in that that information was in fact correct. Or if it's not, fine, it's not, but it seemed to just be ignored.
I agree with you, Tricia, because it's a good sum of money and quite a big, like, philosophical change. I, for one, would feel reticent to make that big change without really knowing that not just, I only heard a selection of voices who were able and wanted to come to a meeting and wanted to speak up, but that I actually heard the best sampling we can. We can't make people vote, but for anybody that came to the poll, we'd have that. The logistics, I don't know, but that is my feeling in a, if I say.
Anything else on the topic?
Oh, not on that topic,
Okay.
different one.
You can speak.
I can speak now.
Eric?
Would that straw poll be mailed to the people that get their ballots also, or just at the poll?
Mail it.
Yeah, that's just what my
As long as
question, for people
get
that
that
go to
question.
polls that.
I would have to have a question. I'm sending everything up to the printer on Monday. They mail from there, so that'd be this week.
Anything else on the police question?
Well, this is kind of related. I'd like to know how the board is supporting the leasing of 2 electric police vehicles. I'm curious about that. I think that it's from just resources that I've read, I don't believe this is a healthy way to secure people in a car, is a little electric car running around. And the cost of them is going to be very expensive. So that's a question that I have for you guys. How did this get decided? How did this get decided? Why? And what's the expense? Three big ones.
Chair, that order.
Mr.
And they
Chair.
don't charge in the winter.
They do
When
charge
it's
in the
cold.
winter.
That's why it's been on the news lately.
So the reason that this is under consideration is because the town has had a green fleet policy for several years, which says that when our equipment starts to age out and need to be replaced, we will consider non-fossil fuel alternatives if they can provide the same function and their cost is deemed to be sufficiently efficient to the taxpayers. So we as a town have a policy that that's an examination we're going to make each time we have a piece of equipment that needs to be replaced.
So who made the decision, Mr. Hopkins?
Who made the decision
Who
on that
made the
policy?
decision to do that? Not the policy.
So I implemented that policy by making this examination because we have some police cars that are in need of replacement.
Is that what do we vote on that? Does the town vote whether we get electric police cars?
Not generally, no.
It's in the
Well, I don't
budget,
think
so-
that's right. I think that needs to be on the ballot.
What about
So if I
charging?
could speak a little bit more about the process. The way that the process unfolds is that the police chief works with some dealers of police cars. He got some prices for gas-powered police cars, and he got some prices for a hybrid police car, and he got some prices for electric-powered police cars. The state of Vermont then has these incentives that we received, we've been awarded, it's not a maybe. And the IRS has a tax credit, which we will qualify for if we lease the vehicles on this lease purchase. And we talk about it in terms of lease because it's not a straight purchase like we used to do in the old days when we would buy a cruiser from Vernon because they closed down the police department. So over 3 years, we will pay the full purchase price of the electric car, and we will retain the electric car at the end. You don't return it.
Now, can we petition to reverse that decision? Can we
Absolutely.
get signatures to petition to reverse that decision?
So
Because that should be a decision of the town.
the town doesn't generally vote when we buy a car.
Well, so a petition, we can petition against that.
You can ask the select board to not agree to it. Like, I can't do this. I have to bring the purchase order to the select board. And at some point, the select board's either gonna say, yes, you can buy this car, or no, you must buy that car.
Okay,
Or,
because
no,
I'm
you can't buy
definitely
any.
gonna petition against it.
Yes, Karen?
What are the incentives? How much are they?
So what the police chief found is that the electric car costs $9,000 more than the gasoline-powered cruiser. The incentive from the state is $2,500. The credit from the IRS is $7,500. So clearly, the policymakers at the state and federal levels have sweetened the pot enough that the electric car will cost just slightly less than the gasoline-powered car to purchase. And that while we're fueling the electric car with electricity, we will be paying less money to do that than if we bought gasoline. And while we have the electric cars in the fleet, they'll be under the warranty anyway, and they will not require as much maintenance as a gasoline-powered car. That's just a fact. Everybody's entitled to their own opinions, but nobody's entitled to choose their own facts. The fact is that the maintenance cost of an electric car will be less than the maintenance cost of a gasoline car.
Excuse me, I don't believe that.
I'm sorry, but it's
To
true.
exchange the battery alone is $60,000
They're going to be under the full manufacturer's warranty
for 3 years.
for 5 years.
That ain't, no, $60,000? You can buy 2 cars for $60,000.
No, you cannot. I'm
For
sorry.
one battery.
The gasoline-powered cruiser is $60,000 now.
What about charging stations? Will the officers have them at their house, each one, and how much will that cost? And at the station?
So there'll need to be one at the police station, but it's not contemplated that these would be take-home cars.
Okay.
In an article published last January on theguardian.com, it was reported how the United States transition to electric vehicles threatens environmental havoc. The transition, fueled by the rollout of historic funding for electric vehicles through Joe Biden's Inflation Reduction and Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, could require 3 times as much lithium as is currently produced for the entire global market, causing needless water shortages, indigenous land grabs, and ecosystem destruction inside and outside our borders. Biden's strategy to fully decarbonize the transportation sector by 2050 may be a good idea, but there's a catch. It's lithium. Electric vehicles are already the largest source of demand for lithium, the soft white metal common to all current rechargeable batteries. Additionally, the global demand for lithium, which is also called white gold, is predicted to rise over 40 times by 2040, driven predominantly by the shift to electric vehicles in the United States. Additionally, the Inflation Reduction Act's electric vehicle purchase incentives apply only to vehicles whose battery minerals come from a list of countries that notably does not include China, which today is the source of most of the world's electric vehicle battery metals. The United States transition to electric vehicles is of major global significance. The transition to lithium battery-powered electric vehicles by 2050 will deepen global environmental and social inequalities linked to mining and may even jeopardize the global heating target. The speed of the transition, as well as who benefits and who suffers from it, will depend on the number and size of electric vehicles and batteries Americans opt for going forward. Transportation is the biggest source of carbon emissions in the United States and the only sector in which emissions are still rising. Preserving the status quo might seem like the politically easier option, but it's not the fairest way to decarbonize. Mining lithium is a fraught business, and the rise in demand for electric vehicles is contributing to a rise in social and environmental harms and global supply chain bottlenecks. Lithium mining is, like all mining, environmentally and socially harmful. More than half the current lithium production, which is very water intensive, takes place in regions blighted by water shortages that are likely to get worse due to global heating. Most forecasters predict a supply crunch in the next 5 to 10 years, a period when rapid decarbonization must take place to avert even more catastrophic global heating. The price of lithium batteries, the most expensive component of the electric vehicle, went up for the first time last year as demand outweighed supply. Lithium car batteries, which are the main batteries used in electric vehicles, are not as easily recycled as the acid batteries, and recycling them is energy intensive and costly process. When I used to work in engineering, my boss would tell me to always think of the impacts of a change, A through Z. Have we as a society covered the alphabet of impacts, the switch from gas-powered to electrical vehicles? The answer is no. This is not yet a comprehensive or globally socially responsible change. More thought needs to go into this before we start throwing taxpayer money at the latest politically motivated act. We can either electrify the status quo to reach zero emissions, or the energy transition can be used as an opportunity to rethink what's environmentally and socially just, both in the United States and globally, and explore possibilities for a future without fossil fuels that minimizes mineral extraction and new harms to communities in lithium-rich areas. I've seen a lot of people, they're very happy with your tax calculator, Seth, and they're looking at their own bottom lines, but these decisions impact more than just our individual taxes, our individual community, or even just our country. We have a global responsibility, especially as a leader in this nation. Thank you.
All right, we'll take one more question on it.
There's two hands raised on
Is there?
Zoom. Adam Yuruk had his hand up.
Okay. Adam?
Thanks, Tracy. Without actually saying if I'm for or against the electric cruisers, I'm just kind of curious, what's the understanding of, with there being a budget right now that isn't in support of a full-time PD, does that mean that when there is an officer assigned to a electric vehicle, that he will then have to respond to the PD first, to then get to the vehicle, to then respond to the call?
I believe the intent is that it would not be an on-call shift vehicle, it would be a scheduled duty shift vehicle. So the officer would be coming to the police station to pick the car up at the beginning of the officer's shift.
So then only a half of the PD will be available to be on call, the other half doesn't have to be on call?
I don't think the whole police.
I guess my question
department's on
was
call
more into the chiefs. But what's the cost of installing electric pumps at PD?
It's basically a dryer plug, guys, you know, like you have an electrician come in and they'll need a double circuit and away you go.
And are those inside the PD or are they outside the PD?
They could be outside or inside.
I think the intent was to put them into the garage.
They could go in the garage.
Okay, thank you.
Eric?
I just, I have some reservations on the electric cars, and I did a little bit of research. And I have a friend of mine that lives in South Carolina. His dad, Vermont native, he was born and raised here. The town they have in South Carolina, they bought one. It didn't work out for them. Now the vehicle is wrapped, they took the police stuff off it, they wrapped it, it is a community relations vehicle now, and also the school resource officer's car. They've gone back to gasoline. This is in South Carolina. I have a picture of the vehicle, if you want to see it, I'll be happy to show it to anybody. We're going to go with 2 of these. Why wouldn't we take, and I'm not totally against it. Why don't we try one? See how it works, and buy another gas one instead. Start with one. See how it works here in Brandon, Vermont. I have reservations about a Tesla in a Pursuit going down the back road in Brandon, Vermont. I really do.
I appreciate the idea of starting slow, and
I'm not against it. There's hybrid vehicles out there that are both, gas and electric. From my experience seeing some of the primitive ones that started, there were some issues, and I'm sure that a lot of these issues are worked out now. I've seen a lot of the Toyota hybrids that are, great vehicles. And I've seen some electric ones that are.
the stakes are high with police, and it makes sense to proceed slowly on the change that lots of people are
I would
concerned about.
I would be
Right,
concerned with buying 2 of them. That's my view.
Mr. Chair, I just want to confirm for the public that eventually, when the time comes to make the purchases, the select board's going to do it in an open session. It's going to be a discussion, right? And they will be able to weigh pros and cons and make their own decision based on what they feel is the best choice for Brandon. And I will say that I did, along the lines that Mr. Mallory is referring, I did talk with the folks at the state who we did the interview with to get the grant award, and they did confirm that we can take both or just one. It's not It's not 2 or 0. We could take 2 or 1 or 0 of these grant awards, and we can take up to 20 of them in total, depending on our fleet requirements.
That would be a question.
You know.
Sandy?
The first thing that really bothers me is when people offer me money to buy something and to pay down the road. It really bothers me. It was $7,500 to get into an electric car and then to get into 2. I mean, it just brings, there's so many things in town that we need to put money towards. And with the way the batteries are going at this point, to me, it would make sense to wait, put it off a year, and in a year's time, there's at least 4 different types of batteries that are replacing lithium that we can then buy, that would be to our favor, that are recyclable. And recyclable means a lot when it comes to dollars and cents. The cost of recycling those batteries is going to be more than the $7,500 credit we're going to get to buy the damn car. So I think it needs a little more thought. I just don't think it's ready to go up for a vote. And I really think the select board is being very arrogant to say that it's up whether you want to get 0, 1, 2, or 20. It's whether you need to get any at all should be the question, because we're the taxpayers.
Well, 0 is an option, right? And just to be clear, what we're talking about is a budget that has room to pay for cars. And that amount of money is to pay for 2 cars, it'll pay for 2 gas cars, it'll pay for 2 electric cars with the incentives. And that's going to be up to the select board once the budget is adopted by the voters and comes into effect in July. That's when we're going to bring purchase orders to the select board. It's not going to happen next week.
Yeah, this was in the proposed budget, and I have
a dollar figure.
A dollar
The
figure.
budget is already over.
No.
Isn't it up? Yeah, but it's already said it's going to be up, what, 13%?
Yeah, the dollar is set.
So why are we looking at continuing to spend? It's just a thought.
I'm not sure.
We'll take one more question on the police, on the electric car stuff, and Neil?
Hi, I was visiting the police department the day after one of our storms, windstorms. The police department was on a generator, and the police chief said that he was not really in favor of an electric car because he wouldn't be able to charge them if there was, without investing in quite a larger generator. He also said that, and I'm kind of surprised that the conversation has not included hybrid police cars, which are a third alternative. It's not just either a gas or all electric. Hybrid vehicles have a better range, are able to operate in colder temperatures. The other thing is, after one of our cold spells this past week, the headlines were electric vehicles were not holding a charge in below 0 weather. So it seems to me that electric vehicles, electric police cars, electric cruisers are not yet at the level that we want for a police cruiser in Brandon. That a hybrid vehicle is a much better choice. I am surprised and embarrassed that the select board is only considering the 2 ends of the spectrum and not the middle. Because hybrid vehicles are an option, and according to what I've read, perform better than gas-powered or electric-powered. And I'm going to turn it over, if I may, to Claire.
Hi, good evening. I wanted to thank the person who just read the very brilliant and truthful side of solar, the side we don't hear about. We have a few people that are cheering on solar. I'm not against solar. I have solar on my house. I have 2 heat pumps, but not ever will I buy an electric car. I was in one not long ago that died on my way to my house with my ride, and I had to get out and have Neil come and pick me up. I don't think that's a good way to go. It was the middle of the night, nowhere to go, or in a rural place, it wasn't cool. So I like hearing that we don't have a lithium market here. It is indigenous people that are going to get ripped off one more time. They aren't the people who are going to be getting the benefit of these vehicles. We have 4% of the lithium market in the United States. And Teslas use 8 times the amount of lithium. So yay for Tesla. I hope you don't have a fire with the Tesla batteries. Good luck with that. And I do agree with Neil about the fact that nobody's talking about going down the middle of the road. Crazy. Thank you.
All right, and I would like to just, I guess for the record, that we have talked about, hybrids have been in there. We've talked about all 3 at board meetings with the chief of police. So there's nothing that we've talked about just electric or gas. We have talked about the hybrids, and again, I don't, as our town manager had said, we can bring this up again more so in July. That's when really comes down to what we buy for vehicles, or if we buy any vehicles. It would be, the time to continue talking about this would be in July.
There's a new question from Lisa, please.
Yeah.
I'll be very brief. I just wanted to say that I'm really excited that we are considering electric vehicles. Despite all the scary stories, my experience with them has been very positive. I have a hybrid which broke down last week, so I think that happens with all vehicles, unfortunately. But given that they just found out that our ice shelf is melting at 20% the speed faster than they thought it was, we really have to cut our emissions. So I think as we research and look forward and figure out if this is going to work or not, my 1-year-old granddaughter thanks us for being thoughtful about the future of our family. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything else on public comment? Not, we're moving on. We're moving on.
Adam Urich has another public comment.
Adam?
Is it possible to go back about questions regarding the PD, full-time being on the ballot? I understand that it's probably going to be skewed against the PD, knowing that everyone in town is thinking that the taxes are going up. But I think any question is better than no question.
Adam, I'm gonna address that when we get to agenda item 11.
All right, thank you.
I'm not trying to put you off, I'm on the same.
No, it's all good.
All right, we're going to go on to a presentation from. I'm not even going to try to mutilate your name. I'm sorry, Greg. I'll get the first one out here.
Unfortunately, I don't have enough juice for the select board. So the Rutland Regional Planning Commission is updating the plan for the region, and it's coming out in 2026. We're currently doing community engagement, trying to get as much information from people in towns as possible on what they want to see from the region as a whole. So if you ever have the time, and this goes for select board as well as everyone else here, if you have time to take a quick survey, it takes 5 minutes. You go on rutlandrpc.org/plan2026. 5-minute survey, and then your feedback will be integrated into what we're going to be doing for the plan update. That's really all.
Great, thanks.
Thank you.
I just wanted to take the opportunity to welcome one of Brandon's newest residents as well. He just moved to Brandon. Fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, happy to be here.
And the Regional Plan Commission, I think, is planning on holding a forum at the Brandon Inn on February 10th to help
That
promote
is
this
true,
as well.
yeah. We'll be there around 10 to 12.
They have a QR code if anybody wants to scan it and do it now. In case you don't.
Do you want to sit? Can I look at it quickly and then pass it to you?
Adam, do you have a question on that, or?
I think he just didn't put his hand down.
I may be able to get his hand to go down. That's it.
Number 7, request for letter of support. We that swamp parcel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So in the board packet, this is on the tax map that points to the parcel that's numbered 6-1-25. It's at the far, far western extremity of the town on the Sudbury line by the creek. And then there's a map in more detail with like the aerial shot. And we have Joan Allen and Will, where's Will? Will's there, yeah, Will's there from Fish and Wildlife Acquisition, and they can introduce what the concept is, but it's something similar to other swamp parcels that the town has supported Fish and Wildlife Acquisition.
Yeah, thank you so much. Good evening, folks, and thanks for including us on your agenda tonight. My name is Will Duane. I am the Land Acquisition Coordinator for the Department of Fish and Wildlife. I work out of the Montpelier office. With me tonight is Joan Allen. She's an independent consultant, but is helping the Department of Fish and Wildlife and the Nature Conservancy with some of the legwork on many of our acquisition projects. We're here to ask for the Select Board's support for an upcoming acquisition. Just a little table setting. We have a statutory requirement at the Department of Fish and Wildlife. Anytime we acquire a new piece of land, we need the approval from the governor. And one of the first questions the governor's office is going to ask us is, what does the town think? So to that end, and in an effort to continue being a good neighbor in the communities where we own land, we're here to ask for a letter of support, or something as minimal as a motion in the minutes that we can carry on forward. This particular property, it's owned by Dennis McKeegan, 16 acres, and I have a map I can put up on the screen if that would be helpful, but I'll put that up in just a moment. The department is seeking to acquire properties here in the Brandon Swamps to build out the Brandon Swamp Wildlife Management Area. Our primary objectives here are conservation of wildlife habitat, fairly unique wildlife habitat here in your community, as well as public access for recreation and flood resilience. That third item has quickly come up in the last few years as one of the reasons we acquired the properties that we do. Mr. McKeegan used to hunt and harvest wood from the property. He's let us know that he actually hasn't been on site for a few years now. There were some changes to some ditching and culverts on nearby properties. We're actually not sure where, but it resulted in the parcel being essentially flooded for 300 plus days out of the year. The property is a floodplain forest currently, the forest is wetland, and very similar to some of the other projects we've put forward in the last few years here. Just a little bit of history since 2020. We've closed on 10 parcels here in the Brandon and Cornwall Swamp Complex, and for a total of about 400 plus acres. So we're happy to answer any more questions that folks have for us, or Joan, if you have anything else to add, please jump right in.
No, you pretty much covered it well.
Thanks. And again, for folks in the room, if you haven't seen a handout, I'm more than happy to just put a map up on the screen real quick.
So I make a motion that we provide a letter of support for the state acquisition of the swamp parcel.
I second that.
And I'll go on to say that we've done this successfully before, and we still get taxes on this land. We get this pilot payment in lieu of taxes, and so it's a great way to keep the swamp healthy and available for public use, but well managed.
Any discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Cecil, you with us?
Thanks, folks.
I said I did you not get?
We didn't.
Now you're muted. Again.
Well, thanks very much again. Again, if folks want to reach out with any questions on this or other acquisitions, my name or my email address is just will.duane@vermont.gov. Thanks again.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you. Number 8, resolution
7A.
7A, I'm sorry. Yep.
Mr. Chair, thank you for allowing the late addition on this. I thought it was suitable for a late addition because it's a topic that's come up at board meetings before, and this is just kind of the follow-up. So we do have finally 3 quotes for replacing the deficient plate glass on the front of the town office at the street level. And you have my recommendation there to award the job to Royal Group of Rutland for the bid that they submitted. The 3 large windows, $14,637.88, 1-inch thick, high-performance, low-E glass.
What's the pleasure of the board?
Can I make a motion that we accept this bid
And fund it from the 1%?
and fund it from the 1% limit?
I'll second that.
I'll second that.
Any discussion?
So the 1% available fund is $190,000, so this would bring that down to about $175,000.
None being heard, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Now we'll go to 8. Resolution for bond vote for the solar array.
Town treasurer, or if you want to? So you have in the packet the letter from the bond council, which is the attorney that makes sure that we do things in an orderly way about public borrowing. And you have the declaration and the certificate that follows. So this is to say that, yes, the town will be voting on this because it's a matter of public good and we do not have funds of our own to pay for it, and therefore we would be borrowing to pay for it if the town votes to do so. Definitely.
Yeah, so I make a motion that we put this on the ballot for bond vote.
I second that.
Any discussion?
Just that it will be great to have the town input on this.
Well, and I would like to emphasize that this will be one of the first self-funding bond votes that we offer the town. Because this is an income-producing project that will actually make payments on the bond as we go forward.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I see Cecil clicked, but she didn't say anything.
Cecil?
She's back.
Once again, Cecil?
I'm unmuted, and again.
We need, did you hear the motion and the second and the vote?
Yes, I did, I'm here.
Yeah.
Did you vote?
Did you vote?
Yes, I said aye. Can you not hear me?
All those opposed, nay? Nay. Ayes have it.
Okay, I'm testing this. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, I think what happens is it takes a moment for the mic to pick up, so if you want to come in briefly like that, you got to kind of come in for a moment and then speak, because if you just pop it and come in, we only get the last part of what you said, and often we don't hear you.
Okay.
That was a great example, Cecil, just a learning moment, okay? All we got was the last little bit of K out of that.
Okay, so apparently my mic takes 5 seconds to.
Okay, we heard that whole one, that was great, thank you.
Now, number 9, award bid for construction of solar arrays subject to the town meeting vote.
So, Mr. Chair, thank you. You have before you the results of the bid opening that was conducted Friday, January 12th at the town office. And I want to thank Jim Emerson for his really able assistance in analyzing the different proposals that came in. We did have 4 good bids, good solid proposals for building this project if the voters vote to proceed with it on town meeting day. And my recommendation is to award the bid for construction of it, subject to the town meeting vote, to a Brandon company, Green Earth Energy. We'll need a motion.
Yeah, I make a motion that we accept the low bid from Green Earth Energy of $468,500.
second that.
Any discussion? I'm gonna discuss it. I'm totally against the town owning solar. We can't take care of the infrastructure that we have, and we're trying to add more. The other thing that we're trying to do is, that we're trying to put this over into an industrial park, that water and sewer and everything's been put into the industrial park. Personally, I don't think that's a place to have a solar array other than the one that we have, because it's on a lot that was unusable. I think if they're going to do solar, that there is other places that should be available, but as I said before, I'm against the town owning anything at all of solar, because basically, we can't take care of the infrastructure we got. We've proven that to ourselves time and time again, and then we're going to add more. I know all the pros and cons to the pros say that we're going to make money and it doesn't cost us money to use this. I don't know where all these people come up with that there isn't any maintenance on it, but I've never seen a field go unmowed for 25 years and not have to do any maintenance on it and not see the trees and the brush and stuff come up through it. That's just the land maintenance. That's not the maintenance on the rest of the stuff. That's just my personal feelings, and I will be pushing as much as I can for a no vote on the construction of a solar array on any town-funded money.
So, I respect.
I'd just like to say,
I respect your position, and I think everybody has a right to have a feeling for what's right or wrong. I would just like to clarify, though, that the analysis that Jim Emerson did with looking at the expected value of the solar array includes maintenance of the property, and it includes maintenance of the equipment, because there is an expected failure rate of the microinverters. So that's part of the financial analysis, and so I just want to clarify that that's not overlooked.
All right, good. Thanks for clarifying that.
And could I just offer
Yes.
that Cecil's got something to say,
yeah, I mean, I would just like to point out that right now, all we're talking about is which bid to accept if the town votes to do this. So, the town is going to get to have a say on this, and we can push for no votes or yes votes, but the agenda item right now is just if the town votes yes, which bid should it be? And so I think that's what the conversation should be around.
Yeah.
And I would like to say that the town doesn't own this land. It's owned by the Brandon Industrial Corporation, and they have voted unanimously to enter into a lease with the town for this project, because this lot, even more than the lot where the town currently has solar, is difficult to develop, and the portion of this lot that will be used will allow the rest of that lot to still be available for development should the right developer come along. Access is preserved, and that water and sewer and electricity connection that is important that you've mentioned is also preserved for another user of this piece.
All right, thank you.
I don't think we have the solar that's out there now.
We are the principal off-taker of the solar that's out there now. It's not honest to say that the town has nothing to do with that solar.
We get some of the credits out of it. They maintain it.
Yes, and so they get the profit.
Right. We have no taxpayer dollars into that.
No.
We also tax it.
It's the town's land, though. That's the town's land.
And we're getting tax money on it too. And lease payment.
You're not getting any tax money in land. The town owns the land.
We're getting a lease payment from it.
You're getting a lease
All right,
payment.
we're gonna vote the motion of.
In that bid that you're looking at from G, or G, whatever you call it, is there any decommissioning costs included?
Yes.
Because I know some of
I think
them,
those were in there.
they were in that one. Because you can't trust a contractor that just says, oh, don't worry about decommissioning, when we all know you need to. If you're gonna do your job right, you have to consider it at the beginning, not find out you forgot. Thank you.
I'm confused, where's the parcel that you're proposing this for?
This is on the west end of the Brandon Industrial Park, which is off the Arnold District Road on Robert Wood Drive,
Oh, okay, behind the state.
behind where the
Agency.
state highway agency of
Well, there already
transportation
is some.
There is some, and that the town is the principal off-taker of that. The town owns that lot, but not those panels. And in the situation that's being proposed, the town would not own the lot, but would own the panels. It's like the flip side of solar development.
All right, we're ready to vote the motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Nay. Number 10, approve revised blanket payroll warrant.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is before you because one of our part-time special officers, Ethan Kelleher, has completed his bachelor's degree in criminal justice at Vermont State University at Castleton, and therefore becomes eligible to go to the police academy, and per the collective bargaining agreement, we then pay the academy rate to this officer. So that's the change.
All right. Do we have a motion on that?
I make a motion that we move forward with the new blanket payroll authorization.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
I'll second.
Oh, I'm sorry. Discussion?
Congratulations to Ethan.
Any discussion? Not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. 11, approve town meeting warning.
So, Mr. Chair, you had in the packet a series of possibilities. And right now, we're at the point where both the bond question and the town treasurer question about penalties have been inserted by the board, by action this evening.
The solar bond.
No,
No.
sorry, yes.
Yeah, well, yes. the
Okay, I
solar
was like,
bond,
oh, no. Okay, the solar, great.
It's pretty deep. It's, is it the last one?
It's page 24. Oh, are you wondering which one is the solar bond?
I just want the board to be clear on which ballot and town meeting warning we're talking about.
Oh.
Should be the very last one.
The very last one.
I started out,
Yes.
agreed at, okay.
So this one, you should have 1 through 6 on the warning for the evening meeting, then 1 through 17 plus 1 on the ballot. Do you have that
1 through 5 and 1 through 16.
You don't want that one. You want to keep going, like in the packet.
It's after the warrants?
No, it should be before.
Then it's not in there.
The only other thing I have is the warrants.
Is this the one?
I've got 2 of them.
Brian has the same one.
I've got the same one, the one for 16.
So you want 1 through 17, 1 through 6, and then 1 through 17 plus the bond question. That's the one we're talking. So anyway, that's the one we're going to sign. That's one you're going to sign tonight.
Here's another one.
Thank you.
After that question.
Right, so Sue made a version that allowed for the board to take positive or negative action on both of those questions.
Okay, thank you.
And this is, yeah, this is the one.
Never changes.
Or approving one and not the other.
Okay.
Yeah, I make the motion that we accept this the way it is.
Do we have a second?
I will for the purposes of
Discussion.
discussion. I would like to suggest that we add a poll, or an advisory question to the ballot about the police coverage, just to find out whether we should continue the conversation about adding an additional officer or not. And a potential question would be, so my motion is, we should add an advisory question that reads, The town of Brandon's police force is currently able to provide 24-hour coverage only through reliance on overtime and an on-call system. In order to provide full 24-hour protection, the town would incur additional expense in hiring officers to fill that schedule. Should the select board consider adding an additional police officer to increase coverage to 24-hour coverage? That's one potential wording for an advisory question.
The question is, do you want, because I can run over, if you want to put it on the warning and the ballot, you could do that. Or you can do it like a Doyle poll, where it just is a separate thing.
I'd rather have it on the
On the
ballot
ballot.
personally.
Yeah. Can you email it? I'll run next door and print out some new ones.
Yes, I can. I can email it to both of you, but also I think before I bother, we should maybe discuss it.
Yeah, that's fine. Oh, right.
Great job, Heather. But what I wanted to add is, at the end there, you didn't distinguish on-duty coverage.
Thank you. Okay, 24-hour on-duty coverage. And this would just be to wonder if we should continue having the discussion or if we should table it and revisit it in years to come. You know, it doesn't, it's not binding or anything, so I don't know what wording you put.
She made an amendment, somebody needs to
No,
second
no,
it.
either.
She made a motion.
Actually, I made the motion. She
Oh, you made a
seconded
motion.
it, and we were discussing.
We're discussing.
What she really meant to do was make an amendment.
Amendment to the
And then she
motion.
needs to have a second to that.
Okay,
Right.
so what do I need to do, Charlene?
I'll second.
Everything you've done.
Yeah, you just,
Cecil
Cecil
did.
seconded your
Oh,
Cecil did,
So
okay.
now we have an amendment we're going to vote on.
okay.
to
Would
add
you
the
like
question
me?
or not.
Can you read it again?
I was just gonna offer, okay. The town of Brandon's police force is currently able to provide 24-hour coverage only through reliance on overtime and an on-call system. So hopefully that doesn't reveal to me. In order to provide full 24-hour protection, the town would incur additional expense in hiring officers to fill that schedule. Should the select board consider adding an additional police officer to increase coverage to 24-hour on-duty coverage?
My only concern is it could be confusing voters.
Yeah.
Like, you know, if you vote on something like that, people might think like this is a binding thing, it's not like
Right.
it's on the
You could
ballot.
say it's non-binding right at the start.
Is there a way to,
The
Well,
way-
that sentence could be, it's a non-binding poll.
And I think that Sue could do that, as she said earlier, by not putting it on the ballot, just sending it out
I could just put it
and do
in
the same thing.
to the ballots, that you know, on a different sheet of paper.
if there's a concern, then about, I don't know. Go ahead.
Karen?
Just in the wording, you say officers, and then at the very end, you say one officer. So I would just take the S off the first officers when you're talking about should the town hire more
Okay.
officers.
I'll put it in parentheses, because honestly, I don't think we have the details that much.
Karen?
Okay.
You know what might be helpful is to know how many times officers are called in and what their calling pay is.
But that would be discussed when it gets added to
Yeah.
the budget
Okay.
next November.
Next November.
Mhm.
Okay, thank
Or
you.
this November.
Thank you.
We're already thinking about it, Jan.
All right, we got a motion.
I prefer everything on the ballot instead of having separate little
Okay.
straw votes and all that. I prefer everything on the ballot.
So what, is this going to be a vote, put it on the ballot, or to put it in a straw vote?
It's the,
I'm proposing that we
proposing to put it on the ballot.
as an advisory poll, right? Is that what it's labeled, Sue?
Non-binding.
No, I'm in a gray
You can
area.
have a non-binding question on
Yeah,
that.
on that.
Non-binding,
And we'll just label it.
informational question.
Maybe we'll just label, like above the question, say this is a non-binding
Yeah.
question, yeah.
For informational purposes.
And that way the tabulator tabulates it.
Question from Lisa Caluso.
I'd like to make a suggestion respectfully about the language. I would remove the word only, and I would swap out the word protection with coverage.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we're gonna vote the motion.
Did you vote?
We haven't voted Heather's
Have
motion.
Heather's motion. the amendment.
Right,
The
no
amendment.
motion, good, okay,
We're gonna vote the amended motion.
okay,
No, the amendment.
The amendment to the
Amendment.
motion.
yes.
So with,
To amend the
am I
motion.
allowed to put Lisa's suggestions in there, because I concurred with that?
Unless there's
Well,
objection from these
so the motion that I have for you is to amend the original motion to add a question on the police force on the ballot as a non-binding question. And then you can send me
Okay.
the information.
You're so good, Charlie.
You
So
got
this
that?
is a vote to see if we should add it to the poll, and then, or to the ballot.
To the ballot, yeah.
And then we would still go on to edit the question.
You can send us.
Send exactly what you guys
Their vote, yes or no, is gonna depend on the exact language
Right.
that the
Yeah.
amendment has.
So-
So it's best to square that away before you vote.
Here's the language that I suggest, because I think Lisa's suggestions were the ones. Is it easier if you read it on the screen, or is it easier?
Everybody needs
Well,
to hear it.
everybody needs to hear it. You can just email it to me, so.
Okay, will do. Okay. The town of Brandon's police force is currently able to provide 24-hour coverage through reliance on an overtime and an on-call system. In order to provide full 24-hour coverage, the town would incur additional expense in hiring officer, parentheses S, to fill that schedule. Should the select board consider adding an additional police officer, parentheses S, to increase coverage to 24-hour on-duty coverage?
Call the question.
Calling the question.
Okay.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it.
I'm emailing you now, Sharon.
And email me, because I've got to do up a new
Yes.
one before you sign anything and then bring it back over. So, in fact, I'm gonna go do that right now.
Now we're
I'm
gonna
gonna skip the rest of it.
vote the original motion, the amendment as amended. So the original motion was approval of the
Yeah,
warrant
better wait, it's any more.
as amended.
Could you read out the differences of what you have, what you guys are voting to approve versus what is in the packet?
Yeah, there's two. One is there was one, the original thing that was 1 to 5, and now it's 1 through 6. And the additional item in the first 6 is the solar array bond vote. And then the other one was the very last thing that you heard at the beginning of the meeting when Sue suggested we have the 8% penalty after a 30-day notice. And so that's the only difference from the packet to what we're approving.
So 2 more articles.
Plus what she's gonna go add now.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you.
So,
If you find typos, please take the liberty of
Mary,
fixing
did
them.
you have
for
something?
yourself.
You called the question, so what I was going to suggest is, with that being on the ballot as a probing question, I believe there should be some wording in there to clarify for people that that's not, if agreed upon, that's not a change the board would be looking to put in place this budget cycle.
It was pretty specific that it won't be, it'll be a non-binding.
Right, if a
And I
non-binding,
think that gives plenty of room for.
Okay, if you're comfortable with that.
And it could be clarified at the annual meeting too, you know, to point that out.
And we'll highlight it too on the warning.
so we need all those in favor of approving town meeting warning as amended, signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed?
Opposed.
Ayes have it.
Okay, I just emailed it, Sue.
Thank you.
Number 12, reconsider action on the K-9 program. I asked this to be put on. I guess I'm going to write what I figured I did as wrong. I've been on the police union negotiation team, and I feel as though that has probably made my decision to vote the way that it did. If I was not on negotiations, I would have voted completely different. So I'm gonna make the motion that we keep the K-9 program. The other thing is that I'm not into, for my own business, and I had something that was, that I invested roughly $30,000 into, and it was working, I wouldn't do away with it. So I'm making the motion to keep the K-9 program as it is.
I'll second.
And now we're going to open it for discussion.
Thank you for your honesty and willingness to reconsider. We needed to.
Eric?
As a business owner and lifelong resident here, I applaud you for reopening the K-9 program. I believe that this officer that has trained this dog, I would, if I was the officer and they took out my K-9 program, the way jobs are out there for policemen right now, you'd lose this guy. And you trained him, he's familiar with the town. We can't afford to lose, we can't afford the revolving door. And I thank you for bringing it back forward.
It's my understanding that this dog found a lot of fentanyl during a stop. Is that correct?
From my understanding, it has, yes.
And I heard it so eloquently put by a woman that I was talking with, or she said, what price do you put on lives that are destroyed by fentanyl? And I just think that that needs to be considered, and I thank you for looking at it with more open eyes. Those dogs are invaluable. They're wonderful for the officers. They have specific jobs to do. And what price do you put on the lives? Thank you.
And I also thank you as a business owner. I mean, a couple years ago, I was held up by knife point because of someone needing to get a fix of drugs. And we need to clean this town of drugs. Just the other day, we had a drug deal go on in my parking lot, and the officers are aware. We need to clean this town up and worry about that. And I applaud you of thinking about this police dog who is trained. We need to do something about this so someone else don't have to go through this. And today we lost someone in this town and a child without a mother because of drugs. And it's gotten bad. I mean, I've been here for years with the business, and it's sad how much drugs are just, we've been hiding it. And it's time to, this police dog is at a good time to get it cleaned up. And I thank you.
Want to call a question?
I have something I'd like to share.
Yep.
So,
Who knows?
So I admire our form of government and our political process. We voted this question 3 times. The first time it was...
She's trying to shut it off. There you go.
The first time it was, 4 and 0. The second time it was 3 and 2. And today, it's going to come the other way. And I appreciate, I think, the way our system's supposed to work is people are supposed to be, to think about things and change their mind as they are convinced. And I respect that you've changed your mind. I've come up with a short number of points I'd like to make that are unpopular, but I'd like to share them anyway. I don't think we need a K-9 program. Middlebury considered one several years ago and opted not to have one, and they're a larger community that has more resources. And so I think we're a smaller community, and this represents a program that we don't need. I'm concerned about biggering our police force. We just recently decided not to become a regional police force, which I agreed with, and I think that that the canine program represents a form of getting larger as a police department. There are things that comes with having a police dog. There are things that come with having a police dog, a dedicated vehicle for the dog, a canine officer that we pay to go out of state for certification once a month, when he can't be in Brandon, protecting our citizens. And then there's a history of police dogs in America that I think is trouble. And so just in general, I'm not fond of having a police dog. As we've already spoken about today, and that's one of the reasons I supported the question, is that having a dog leads to overtime, because we have fewer officers that need to cover all the hours we have. And there are other similar sized towns to Brandon that provide coverage with 3, 4, and 5 officers. We have 6, plus a chief, plus an administrative assistant, plus a special part-time officer. And while our officers make $25 to $30 an hour, and we expect them to be making $50,000 or $60,000 a year, we have 2 officers that in 2023 made $80,000, and 1 officer in 2023 that made more than $110,000. And that's primarily because of overtime. And I would like to see our police department not have overtime, so our officers are not stressed. And the last thing I would say is, feeling safe in the world today is important. And there are other ways to build true security into our community. Knowing your neighbors, looking out for each other, lending a helping hand. At the global level, we seem to be quick to send bombs and bullets when we should be sending bread and building supplies. And at the local level, rather than investing in a police dog, I'd like to see us invest in something like a mental health responder who can be more responsive to the kinds of calls that police are called to us.
We're gonna call the question. We had said that before, so that's what we're gonna do. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Opposed?
Ayes have it. Then we'll go on to fiscal.
Officer Alnoy has his hand.
Aiden?
Hello. So I just wanted to say a few things here. First, I wanted to thank the various members of the community who came out to support, be that in person, email, calling. I just want to say that, on behalf of myself and Guinness and our PD, that we're very thankful for the overwhelming support that we got in the last few weeks. So I just wanted to share that with you.
Thank you. Moving on, we'll do the fiscal. What's the pleasure of the board? Need a motion on the warrant for January 22nd?
I make a motion that we approve the warrant for $121,981.57.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Now I make a motion that we approve the warrant for $98,047.50 for the library grant warrant.
You have a second on that?
I second it.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Now we're going to go into recess.